Yes, once again, it's just too hot outside, nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But that plus all the noise of traffic and so on means it's much better for me to talk to you here from the hotel room rather than to go outside and just show you a few images from all that's out there. This week, it's number 7 in our series on the book of Exodus. This one's entitled The Bread and Water of Life, because obviously that's what we need. We need physical food to sustain us. We need water just as much. Without that, we also would die very quickly. And this is the scenario we see here. We're in Exodus 15, 16, 17 and 18, as if we could get through all of that in the few minutes we have now. The people are already forgetting what God has done. They come to the place called Mara, which means bitter, because the water there is bitter. They're saying, we can't drink this, you have to give us water. And let's look what Moses responds when they say, give us water, we need water. Moses says, be quiet, why are you complaining to me? And he's quite right, isn't he? It's not Moses' fault, if you really want to put it that way. And can't God resolve that? Isn't that what we really should be saying? And I think there's a lot here for us to look at as we think about our own lives, about how do we respond when things don't seem to be working out quite the way that we had hoped. Remember, they hadn't needed to spend 40 years in the wilderness, wandering around from place to place. They could have been there on the borders of the promised land. I think somebody once said 11 days of trekking through the Sinai and on to the promised land. But they spent those 40 years because they were having to learn lessons, which I'm afraid they never really did, about God's ability to lead and to guide them. And that's why they died in the desert, most of them. So as we start thinking about the application, what should we be saying? Should we be saying something like this? Why did you bring us out here? We had what we wanted in Egypt. At least we had water. Are you trying to kill us? Are we and our children and our animals going to die of thirst? That's such a negative kind of comment, isn't it? You brought us out here. You better fix it because we had it okay in Egypt. We had what we wanted in Egypt. Yes, you had life of slavery. Have you forgotten all about that? And maybe we even think the same things ourselves. We go back, oh, well, our previous life, it wasn't that bad. I was doing okay. I might have had a few problems, a few issues in my life, but I don't know. This Christian experience doesn't seem to be working out for me. It's not all it's cracked up to be, and so on. God can provide us with the bread and water of life. Jesus himself used those images as well, didn't he? He talked about having the bread of life and being a spring of living water that bubbles up inside you. And when he spoke to the woman at the well there in Samaria, he says, I can give you water so that you wouldn't even have to come back to this well. And she says, oh yeah, I want that. Please give me that water. So as we think about what this means to us in terms of our experience, how do we relate? How do we think about the bread and water of life that God gives? And not just here and now, what about the future, our future life together with the Lord? Isn't that going to be something so much better in terms of what we experience compared to this life? This life is not the only one. However good it might appear, the tragedy is, as the statistics say, 1 out of 1 die. And it's sometimes a very hard and painful experience for many of the people living on this planet. Our hope is in the beyond, and we can trust God to take us through to that promised land. And yet like the Israelites, I fear we complain and we bicker and we grumble about things, and God has to teach us many lessons before we get there. May we learn from this experience our own destiny and how we should relate to our loving Lord.